Hello, 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 everybody. Hello. Hey, y'all. Hey. Welcome. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hey. Get this thing started. Get this party started. Posting. All right. Hey. Hi, Vanessa. How you doing? Okay, let's see here. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so we are just waiting on our guest co-host tonight. Let me see if he is watching. I don't see it yet. But come on in. Make yourself comfortable. This is going to be a good conversation tonight. I'm excited about it. Let's see how we can get him on. Hello, hello. Come on in. Make yourself comfortable. We'll get started in a second. Just waiting on my guests for tonight. Hey, Desiree. Okay. I just sent you an invite. Let me know if you can see it. Yeah, we got action. Hey, Trip. What's up?
What's up, Devon? What's up? What's up? What's
I
up?
can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Maybe because I need to cut my
Hear me?
volume up. That might help.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Okay.
Okay. What's up, girl? How you doing?
What's happening? How you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Okay. You staying out of trouble?
Uh, a little bit.
Oh man, it's gonna be a good conversation tonight. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, I know, right?
Good stuff happening. So we'll wait a couple of minutes just to let people log in.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me see who we got on here. hmm Okay, people tuning in, tuning in. Hello, hello, everybody. Hey, y'all. We ready to get started in just a second. I wonder if I turn. I'm not gonna try it. I'm not gonna do it. I
How
was
was your
gonna
day?
try to turn it sideways to see if we'll show up sideways, but we probably won't. Let me see. Oh, oh, you can't turn your phone while recording. Okay, all right. Well, Facebook won't let me turn it. Never mind. Okay, it won't work because now you're showing sideways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just gotta show it up this way. No worries. All right. Okay. Now, what you said? You were saying something.
I was asking, how was your day?
It was good. It was busy, but I like busy. You know, it helps the
Okay.
day go by fast. So, what about you?
You're right about that. It was cool. It was cool.
Mm,
Not bad. Not bad.
okay.
No complaints.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shared. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing, Vanessa. Hey, Ray. All right. Well, it is 8 o'clock, so we just gonna go ahead and get started so we can get into this discussion tonight because I think it's going to be really good. So before we get started,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to introduce myself. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Relationship Conversations. My name is Siobhan Carter. I am the You Relationship Coach, and what that means is I am passionate about all things relationships, especially the relationship that we have with ourselves. So my special guest tonight is Gary Tripp Jr. So I won't introduce him. I want him to introduce himself. So Tripp, tell us a little bit about you.
Gary Tripp Jr., 43. Um, two beautiful daughters. Uh, Entrepreneur, love, just loving life,
Living life.
loving life.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible for you to get close? I can't barely hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, that's better. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about men and mental health issues. And I want to touch on this topic, one, because you and I attended a game night together and we got really open and honest about things that's going on in our lives. And you shared something really personal about your own challenges with mental health. So I wanted us to have this honest conversation because I think it's something that we don't talk about, especially among men. So before we get into your story, can you tell us about why you believe mental health is so taboo in the African American community and especially among men?
Um, I think it's taboo. I think it goes all the way back to our ancestors. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, all the way up to our parents, grandparents, and the struggle that we had to go through, especially in the Western civilization here in this country. And for men, especially black men, um, culture or the society has created that we're not supposed to show any kind of weakness,
Yeah.
or we're supposed to always, just be the Superman, so to speak. But when you look at the culture and when black men really start leaving their families and things back in the 60s and the 70s, and the reasons why, and it just kind of kept coming down, spreading, but we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of black families are about what goes on in the house stays in the house,
Mm-hmm.
like it's Vegas or something.
Yeah.
But really, we should have been seeking help, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think it's just been a cultural thing that black people don't like to talk about,
Mm.
especially black men.
Yeah.
I, I've I've talked to several black men over the years, and just don't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's like it's looked at as a sign of weakness, or because the man is supposed to be quote unquote strong, and that type of show of emotion or admitting that you have mental health challenges can create just this stigma that something is wrong with you. You need to man up and all that kind of stuff, without understanding like this is like sometimes a chemical imbalance. Like this is something that is outside of just our normal control that we just don't talk about. Yeah.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. So tell us
You
about
know,
your story, your experience with mental health.
um, well, I was going through some things years ago, and went and got sought some help, and it really opened up to why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I just didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because my brother was killed back in '95,
Wow.
and I didn't know necessarily that I was kind of out of control or was covering it up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Plus, I also learned that it kind of ran on some sides of my family, especially like my daddy's side.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a perfect candidate,
Wow.
especially once tragedy hit when I was so young. Um, I think I was probably about 20 years old, 19, 20 when my brother got killed.
Wow.
So, and from there, once I learned about it, it was just time to try to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the signs that let you know that you needed to reach out for help?
Um, I lost the desire to do things that I used to love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I used to draw, you know, I used to like athletic things, doing stuff. Um, And I still did it sometimes, but it just wasn't there no more in me, the desire to do it. You know what I'm saying? Something
Yeah.
that you really enjoy doing,
Hmm.
all of a sudden you realize you don't even care to do it no more.
Yeah.
So once the formality starts to fade away, you're just doing it because you're used to doing it.
Hmm.
You start to wonder why you're not doing these things no more.
Yeah.
Or you start um, wondering why you're feeling so emotional
Hmm.
sometimes you can't control it.
Hmm.
Just waking up, getting out of the bed becomes a chore. So I started seeing those things. Plus, I was married too. So um, just little things that were happening that I saw that, something wasn't right.
Yeah. Did you ever have any feelings of, okay, nah, I can handle this myself. I just gotta do this or I just gotta do that to just get myself back on track? Did you try to figure it out for yourself before you reached out?
Oh, yeah, of course. The old manly thing to do.
Right.
Just, we men, we just want to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of embarrassing because you really ain't had nobody to talk to about how you was really feeling. So, yeah, the old manly thing to do, try to fix it, be a tough guy, man up,
Yeah.
suck it up, put your big boy drawers on,
Right.
but that stuff there is for the birds.
Hmm.
It really is when it comes to mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you find out? Like once you reached out for help and you went to a therapist?
Yeah, I went to a therapist,
Okay.
yes.
And then what did you see? I guess what was the difference that you saw within yourself after you went and started seeing a therapist?
Um, well, once first, I wasn't comfortable with it like the first session. I'm like,
Hmm.
here I am talking to this older white man who I don't know from anybody.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable. I wasn't just, help me doc at first. I think I probably was a little stubborn the first
Yeah.
two sessions, I believe.
Hmm.
And he was like, see you next week, and he was cool about it, which I'm glad he was,
Yeah.
so, but once we kind of started talking and kind of just breaking the ice and let me just talk about some things, um, and then he started giving me his professional thoughts on it, um,
Hmm.
I was able to start seeing things differently.
Yeah, yeah. And I really appreciate you sharing, your story because as I'm thinking about the steps that a person will probably have to go through, one, just acknowledging that, something ain't right. Like I can't pray it away. I can't try to sex it away or whatever. Like these feelings won't go away. So taking that first step to reach out, and then it's like once you get there, it's like, man, I don't want to tell this person all my business. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to open
Exactly.
up. So it's like it's you're inching towards like opening up and really getting the support that you need. So I guess I just lift that up to say if somebody is watching and you're like, okay, I'm going through these steps where I'm just hesitant, and then I finally take that step to make the phone call, and then I go out, go to the therapist, just to
Hmm.
let you know that it's a step by step process, and just acknowledging it is the first step. So if you're not at the point of making the phone call, at least acknowledge that there's something going on within you and you need to reach out for support. So
Yeah,
I
that's
appreciate you
very
sharing
important.
that. Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about relationships. So you said at the time you were married. So what does depression look like when it comes to relationships?
Repeat that again. I'm sorry.
I said when you're in a relationship, how does it show up? Like how does it impact the relationship when you're battling with depression or other mental health issues?
Um, I think it definitely affects you, and it depends on your relationship with that person.
Hmm.
If there's some real trust there, do you all really value each other? Is it that real from health, that vows, the sickness and health. When you take those vows, you don't know, for better or for worse, you don't know what that person's words gonna be.
Yeah.
For sickness and health, you just hope in health. You don't know what that person's sickness may be.
Mm-hmm.
For rich or poor, you don't know how poor.
Uh-oh. It's freezing up. Hello. Gary, you still there? It's freezing up on this end. Let's see. All right, y'all. We have a second. Okay. All right. So we're gonna get Gary back on. Let's see. Just bear with us just a second. We're gonna get him back on. The lovely technology, I tell you, it has a mind of its own. All right, let's see. Okay. Just sent the invite again. Uh-oh. Okay. All right, bear with us, y'all. We coming. We just getting it together. We lost connection. Okay. All right, we're good.
Hey, sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
I think I
Okay.
lost Wi-Fi signal or something.
Okay.
Technology, I tell you.
I know technology. You gotta love it, right?
I know, right?
So you were saying, when you get married, for better, it's for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, and you don't know what that sickness is going to be.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So when that signal, it's going to affect the relationship. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it could be, I guess, for the bad, I guess, so to speak. Depends on, the person that you're with,
Yeah.
how you all's relationship is going. Once that is identified as a problem,
Mm-hmm.
um, because you can be with somebody that truly values you and they're going to do everything they can to learn about it and be there
Mm-hmm.
with you and walk those walks with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or you can be with somebody who mm, really not so down with it and maybe really not so down with you,
Yeah.
and it kind of shows up, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, that can impact it either for the better or for the worse, depending upon how the person responds to it. So what would you say to a woman who is in a relationship with a man who may be battling with depression and he sought out for help, but he's still dealing with some of the symptoms? What would you say to her? How can she support him?
Um, that's kind of like a two-part answer for me, Siobhan.
Okay.
One, it depends on what that man is doing to help himself.
Okay.
If he's a man that's trying to help himself and he recognizes it and takes the bull by the horn, because for men, depression can make them violent. It can make them uncontrolled, because it forces you to deal with a lot of emotions when you don't want to do that, because
Wow.
that's not what we're taught generally as men. Have a flood of emotions and things your mind and it's just it's just it's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got a man that's trying to help himself, I
Mm-hmm.
would say to a woman to be supportive, to
Mm-hmm.
find out what helps his depression,
Mm-hmm.
nutrition to things that help manage it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
maybe do it with him. Find out triggers that can cause, because there's certain triggers that
Mm-hmm.
can cause you not to be able to manage as well throughout the day. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then the
Mm-hmm.
second part of that, I was going to say to a woman or women, if you're with a man and you recognize those symptoms and he refused to get help or do anything to help himself, I would say you're going to have to leave him.
Mm.
You're going to have to because it can turn violent
Yeah.
towards her.
Wow. And I'm glad you said the piece about sometimes men get violent because there's so many emotions going on that you don't know how to deal with, and that's almost like you're not taught how to manage all of those emotions, so it just can become very frustrating and people can get angry by it. And it makes me think about an article I just read about this young man who had he was diagnosed with mental health issues, and so he was dating this woman for about 4 years, and then they got engaged. And at some point during the engagement, she figured out that the relationship wasn't working for her, so she called off the engagement. But when he came to pick up the ring, he had a knife in his hand and he basically killed her. Like he just, started
Hmm.
stabbing her and ended up killing her. And so the whole article was just about the importance of mental health and just staying healthy and that kind of stuff. But it just makes me think
Hmm.
about what you just said. Like, man, it's just I can't even imagine what that would be like dealing with a relationship where you make the choice to get out, but then you're still dealing with someone who may retaliate against you as a result of it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's real. I mean,
Mhm.
it's sad, but it's
Mhm.
reality.
Yeah.
And again, our culture tends to try to block that,
Mhm.
but our culture also have high domestic cases also.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all of them are due to mental illness,
Mhm.
but I think a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And because we don't address it, it just keeps happening,
Hmm. Yeah,
you
and that's
know.
the truth, and it's very sad. And I know, as a woman, sometimes you feel like, you don't want to walk away from the relationship. You want to try to do everything that you can to help the person. But like you said, if he's not doing anything to help himself,
Mhm.
then there's nothing we can really do if he's not putting forth the effort.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Hmm. Hmm. That's tough. So, ladies, if you're out there and you're dealing with a guy who is having some mental health challenges, and he doesn't look like he's trying to get help, I know that nurturing part of you wants to be there and love on him and hope that it gets better. But that's when self care comes in, I guess, and you have to think about yourself as well and your well being.
Hmm.
So, what advice would you give to a man who is suffering from mental health challenges and maybe feeling like, man, I don't want to reach out to nobody for help, and that's gonna make me look like a punk, it's gonna make me look weak or whatever. What advice would you give to a man like that who's saying
Hmm. I would say first that it doesn't make you look weak. It actually shows that you are strong,
that? Mm-hmm.
because not reaching out is a weakness,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and that first you have to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to several guys, and some guys don't want to accept it, and so they try to fight it. Well, you're not going to.
Uh-oh, y'all, we lost Gary again. I think the Wi-Fi is acting up. We're gonna get it back. We're gonna work it out. Lovely technology. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. We'll get him back on in just a second. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. We're gonna get it back going in a minute. Just relying on the beautiful Wi-Fi. All right, just just a second. I just saw him pop back up. Let's see if we can get him on. Okay, it's connecting. Okay.
My actual Facebook is shutting down. I don't know why.
I don't know. Somebody need to hear this conversation, and so the technology is in the way. But that's all right. We're gonna keep it going. We're gonna
Yeah, we're
keep
gonna keep
it
it moving.
going.
But it's
So you
like
said, what
it
would
keep,
you say to a man?
yeah.
Huh?
I would say they have to learn how to accept it first.
Mm-hmm.
And once you accept it, um, start learning ways to manage it and seek the professional help. Because you don't always have to get on no medicine that'll dumb you down. I was glad that
Mm-hmm.
the help that I went and got, he didn't necessarily believe in putting you on medicine unless you really, really needed it. But he
Okay.
told me that, that medicine will kind of numb you out.
Mm.
That's basically all it does.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-mm. We lost him again. Okay, y'all. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it back. Let's see. Bear with us, y'all. Technology has a mind of its own. He's going to be joining us in just a second. So thank y'all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And we will get Tripp back on in just a second. But I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far and just seeing the importance of accepting and embracing mental health. Like it doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It really means that you're strong and you're making yourself vulnerable enough to reach out for help so that you can be a better you, and you can be, just a better person, feel better. Nobody wants to walk around just feeling low and can't sleep at night and all that kind of stuff, because they're just choosing not to deal with what's going on. And I know for me, when I made the decision to reach out and really get support when I was going through therapy, was the best thing for me because I didn't know how much stuff I was dealing with. So for those of you tuning in, Gary is going to be on in a second. He's having some technical difficulties on his end, but we're just having a conversation about men and mental health and the importance of really seeking help when you need it, and just not being afraid to seek help because it's so important, so important. So we're just trying to get Tripp back on. He's having some challenges on his end, but we'll get him back in a second. But like I was saying, there's nothing wrong with reaching out for a therapist. When I started going to therapy back in 2013, it was the best decision that I could have ever made because I was walking around dealing with stuff from my childhood, and I was in my 30s by this time, but dealing with stuff in my childhood that I didn't know that I was still carrying. Issues from being molested when I was a little girl, issues from my father not being in my life, issues from me not dealing with just violence in the home, like all of that stuff. We're not equipped to deal with that type of drama and chaos and trauma. So it was so important for me to get help. And it wasn't until I reached just a pivotal moment in my life when I went through divorce that it was just like, man, I can't deal with this by myself. So it was at that moment where I really finally realized that I needed some support. So let's see if we can get Gary back on. Okay, let's see. All right, we're gonna get him back on in a minute. Okay, your screen is dark, Tripp. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay. All right, we good. We're gonna get this thing together. It's all right. Can you hear me? It's freezing up again. Can you hear me, Trip? I think we lost you again. Okay, we lost him again, y'all. So, so we've been having a good conversation. Trip is just sharing his story about mental health and when he really reached a moment where he needed to reach out and dealing with the loss of his brother and just seeing how his moods were changing. A lot of things that he wanted to do, he just couldn't do. Realize that he wasn't doing anymore. He wasn't drawing. He wasn't, engaging in the activities that he really enjoyed doing. So for him, even though it was scary, he made the decision to reach out. So we're just having some technical difficulties tonight, so that's why you see him going in and out. But I really want us to have this conversation and really help someone who may be going through some challenges, because mental health is real. Like, we don't talk about it a lot in our community, but it's so necessary. So that's why I'm just being patient and trusting that we're going to get it worked out as far as the technological issues that we're having. But thank y'all for tuning in. I'm trying to see if it's going to connect again. Okay, let's see. Just trying to get him back on. Bear with us. Okay, so I see the screen up. Trip, can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me? What if you can you take the Wi-Fi off and just use your cell phone signal? Will that work better? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, 'cause my whole
Oh, the
Facebook's
Facebook is
just
shutting
shut.
down. Okay. And now it's freezing up. Mm-mm. That means this is gonna be so good. This is terrible how it's doing this, y'all. Why are they doing this to us? Oh, this is some good stuff. Yeah, it's not letting us. It's not letting us do it, y'all. So we may have to save this conversation for a later date. I'll try it one more time just to see if we can get him on, but this just doesn't seem to be cooperating with us tonight. So we're gonna keep trying. We're gonna keep trying. Let's see. I know, right, Rachel? It is a good message. And I'm like, man, come on. That's why I don't want to give up, because I feel like it's really going to help somebody, because this is some real stuff that a lot of men don't want to talk about. So it doesn't surprise me that we're having these kind of challenges. So we're going to keep trying, keep trying. Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's freezing up. I don't know if it's going to work for us, Trip, because I think it's going to kick you. Yeah, it's going to kick you back off. Okay. All right, y'all. So I guess we are going to have this conversation another time. Because Facebook won't let us be great. I don't understand what's happening. But earlier, so if you watch this again, you'll see the conversation about his story, about the challenges that he's gone through, and just the words of encouragement he had for men and for women, which I think was important, because he said that if you're in a relationship with a man who is struggling with mental health issues and he's not willing to do the work, if he's not getting help for himself, then there's really not much we as a woman can do to support him or to help him if he's not willing to help himself. And a lot of times as women, being nurturers and being the caregivers that we are, we want to be the ones to reach out and love on him. And maybe if we love him and if we show him that we're there, maybe he will that will help him. But what Tripp was saying, with dealing with so many emotions, and if he's not seeking the support that he needs, it only makes him more frustrated and angry. So and then those kind of men get violent, and then it just can really get dangerous for a woman to remain in that situation. So we as women really have to be mindful and be careful about what we're choosing, who we're choosing to be with, and if this man isn't trying to get help, then we have to make that hard decision to let the relationship go for the sake of ourselves. So but it looks like we're not going to be able to continue or finish this conversation tonight because of the challenges. But I thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'm excited about the guests that I do have lined up, and we're going to hopefully figure out this technical difficulties and see if we can work it out. But let's see him on again. We'll try it one more time. If not, then we'll just call it a night, because it just doesn't seem to be working for us. So let's see if we can get it this time. Okay, you had to reset. Okay. All right, so let's see if we can get you on now. See if that'll work. Okay, the box is showing up. Let's see. All right. Can you hear me good now?
I had to reset everything. I don't know. My app was just
For
shutting
real? That's
down.
crazy, because this conversation is good and it's
Yeah,
gonna help some people. That's why.
I know, right? And the app kept tripping. It just kept shutting
Yeah,
me down.
yeah. Don't surprise me. I'm telling you. Okay, so you were talking to the men who may be suffering from mental health challenges and just not willing to get help. And you were saying the first step that needed to be done is just to accept that, hey, this is what's going on with me.
Yes, to accept that and to seek the help, follow
Mm-hmm.
the help, and know that this is going to be with you more likely the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So you might as well add that to your challenges as a
Mm-hmm.
man, as an African American man, especially in this country, and and to get somebody you can trust to
Yeah.
talk to, somebody that's not going to
Mm-hmm.
judge you, and hopefully it's your spouse. And sometimes it may not
Yeah.
be that person. They may cannot take some of the dark things that you're going to
Yeah.
express in just the way you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
So that makes me think about, what about when dating? So you say this is something that you may have to deal with for the rest of your life. So how do you approach this in dating? How do you bring this up when you're dating someone and maybe even getting serious with someone?
Hmm, that's a good question. I'll, well, I guess it depends on, I guess, as the dating continues and you become more
Mm-hmm.
serious, and if that person, you all can, have some good conversations. It is something that you may, want to let them know that that is something that you deal
Yeah.
with, and the challenges of it, but and what you do to continue to deal with it, because you don't want to take that person's options away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because again, they may be somebody that don't want to deal with
Mm-hmm.
that,
Yeah.
So as a man, you want to, something like that, you want them to know, because if you have embraced it, it's going to be important to you anyway, because you don't want to get somebody that's not going to help you anyway, that's going to make it, in a sense, worse for you to
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Okay, so it's like bringing it up and leaving it up to that person, whether she wants to deal with that or not. If that's something she, yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And when earlier we were talking about when you were talking about your stories, you mentioned triggers. What are some things that you have found that have been helpful when dealing with triggers?
See, triggers can be tricky. I try to avoid even allowing the triggers to happen,
Okay.
so to speak. Or when you know what your trigger is, you try to um, talk your way through it
Mm-hmm.
mentally. You know what I'm saying? So that you won't react in such a bad
Mm-hmm.
way, or you won't become the Incredible Hulk, so to speak. 'Cause that's what I like to call it, the Incredible Hulk. That's what
Yeah.
men go through. 'Cause that's all
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk is a depressed
Mm-hmm.
man that sometimes that loses
Mm-hmm.
control, and want to smash
Yeah.
something. That generally what happens when men with
Right.
depression and anxiety disorder. So triggers, I think you want to learn your trigger, and you try to avoid it, or if it's something you can't necessarily avoid, you kind of step back for a second and walk your way through it
Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah. And what about those people who deal with it like with sex, just try to sex it away or just drink it away or, try to numb themselves so that they don't have to feel. What words of encouragement would you give to them?
That's not going to work. First of all, you will be having sex all the time. It's never
Yeah.
going to work. Um, because alcohol, that's not going to work. Because that wears off, your body kicks it out eventually. See, I did both in my younger years, before I got married. It was sex and alcohol. Couldn't
Right.
get enough. But I didn't
Yeah.
know why. I thought I was just being a
Mhm.
dude. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm.
But um, and I'm talking about just a lot of both, at a young age, especially like I say, especially after my brother was killed. So um, it's not going to help. It's just leading you down. You're harming your body. You playing with other women's emotions. I mean, it's an endless cycle that leads you
Yeah.
to nowhere,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. And I know for me, like I was saying earlier, I know when I finally figured out that I needed help and I needed to go to therapy back in 2013
Hmm.
after, going through a divorce and realizing that my marriage was over. Even though it was challenging to make that decision, I feel like it was the best thing that I could have done because it gives you access to so much more peace within yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
tell us about the benefits of reaching out and really addressing your mental health issues.
Oh man, it allows you to get the
Mm,
control, um, because mental health, especially dealing with depression and anxiety disorders, it takes control. It doesn't, you don't have a measure of control
yeah,
of yourself, um, and it can become frustrating. So it allows you a measure of control. Not that it's going to necessarily be gone, because a chemical imbalance, can last you the rest of your life. But it just allows you a certain amount of control so that you feel like you are in control of your life
yeah, yeah.
again. you know.
Yeah, and that's true because I think when you're dealing with it and you don't have the tools, it can make you feel like you're about to go crazy, like you're about to lose, total
Hmm.
control of yourself, of your life. And I think maybe even I've never been in this type of situation, but maybe that's why some people just choose suicide because it's just a lot to deal with, a lot of voices in your head, a lot of emotions that you don't know how to deal with. So it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming at times. But I know for me, going to therapy
Hmm.
just gave you tools. And it also gave you someone who is a professional who can tell you that, hey, I understand what you're going through, and let me explain to you what's happening to you so you won't think you're about to lose your mind. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just thinking about, this whole topic of depression, like you said, anxiety disorder, and any other type of mental health challenge. What are some last things that you would want to leave with the viewers, especially men who may be dealing with this?
Um, I would say to grab the bulls by the horn and know that this is going to be a ride of a lifetime. Um, you're going to have your good days, and some days it's just going to not be good at all. Some days you're just going to have to accept that it got it.
Yeah.
You know, it's some days you just don't have the strength. You just it
Mm-hmm.
got it. You win. I just want to make it through
Yeah.
this day. Rather I got to go to work or rather I can stay home, get into bed. Some days you just got to accept not necessarily defeat, but that you're just too
Yeah. Yeah.
tired,
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to manage it and make it manageable
Mm-hmm.
for you. I like to say that I don't suffer from depression. I battle depression.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
difference. You know, somebody suffering from something, it makes you seem like it's just beating you up
Yeah.
all the time. But when you battling something, or when you know that you got a battle when you get up in
Mm-hmm.
the morning, kind of like the story of the lion and an
Yeah.
impala, you know, when you know you got to get up running, then you get up
Mm-hmm.
running. And for a man, if um, it's going to make you
Mm-hmm.
stronger when you challenge it instead of trying to, act like it
Yeah.
don't exist.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I'll say get the help that's needed, accept it, um, do the things that are needed. You got to change your diet
Mm-hmm.
up. You got to exercise. That's why I exercise so
Mm-hmm.
much. Um, and you got to find some
Yeah.
good people
Mm-hmm.
around you. Get some good people
Mm-hmm.
around you. You may find that you don't have some good people around you that's going to be needed for your
Yeah.
success in dealing with it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, and to know that you're not alone. There are forums for this. You don't have to go automatically and sit in somebody's chair. You can go right on the internet. There are forums for it, rooms that, you listen to other people's experiences and how they deal with it,
Yeah.
and some doctors will talk to you online or some counselors or therapists that work with different, you know, they'll talk to you online. You don't
Yeah.
have to go sit down somewhere if you're not there yet.
Yeah.
But I would advise you to really just take it serious and to know that it's going to be a part of your life for the rest of your
Mm-hmm.
life, but that you can be relatively
Yeah.
hefty
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I
in
love
dealing
that.
with it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
think that you're just, you know,
I love that, and I appreciate you sharing that because it's not a death sentence. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you, So yeah, yeah, I love that. Are you still there? Can you hear me? Okay,
yeah, I can
all
hear
right,
you.
yeah. So I just appreciate you sharing with us tonight and sharing your story. And and there may be some people who don't even know where to go. When it's talking about, well, if I do want to reach out for help, where do I go? And you said there are forums that you can go to if you just search it on Facebook. or if you just Google, counseling or therapy in your area. I know psychologytoday.com has resources for area code and find therapists in your area. So there, all you got to do is Google it. The internet is, has all the resources that we need at our disposal when we really reach out for help. So just know that you don't have to do this by yourself, and there is support for you. So looks like we've lost Gary again, so I'm just going to go ahead and log off. But I really thank you all for tuning in, and looking forward to these discussions that I have lined up with some more people. So I hope you were encouraged. Apologize for all of the challenges that we had that were beyond our control. But thank you for watching and staying with us. And please share and let people know. Every Wednesday I do this. And so next week I have an amazing guest who is going to be on. We're going to be talking about intentional dating. So I'm really excited about that. So see you next week at 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in, and good night.